When my son was small, one of our favorite books was If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And for the uninitiated, the second part of that conditional sentence, assumed by everyone who has ever enjoyed a cookie, is, he'll ask for a glass of milk. Naturally, everyone knows that cookies belong with milk. They are the perfect pair, always better together. And it's only logical that since drinking milk makes a mustache for many, that the mouse will ask for a napkin too. And so the story continues in that playful fashion, with one action logically leading to the next. The author takes the reader through an eventful and delightful sequence of cause and effect, from snack to sharing to cleanup to nap, until the circle is finally closed, when the mouse wakes up refreshed and asks for another cookie. The cycle begins anew. This is the kind of story made to satisfy a child's imploring command, again. That sense of full circle satisfaction isn't easy to come by, but I caught a glimpse of it in our portion this Shabbat. Vayeshev, the early story of Joseph, begins and ends with dreams. In between the dreams, we follow him as he matures from child to a responsible adult, the sequence of events a result of unexpected circumstances. Known to his brother as that dreamer, Joseph's coat of many colors marked his status as his father's favorite, while at the same time he was unwittingly also despised by his brothers, a fact which young Joseph is entirely oblivious to. Was it the coat which conveyed his father's affection that irritated them so, or Joseph's naive vision that the world revolved around him, as is true of many children? Perhaps it was the additive effect of both, which ultimately led to a cycle of unintended consequences. When Jacob sent his beloved Joseph to visit his older siblings, who, as you know, were pasturing their flocks far away, as they saw their little brother approach, at that very moment, the men began to plot and scheme, voicing their disdain for that dreamer. Some even wanted to kill him, but compromised and threw him into a pit instead. Still other brothers rescued Joseph from the pit and then sold him to traders who happened to be passing by, whose final destination was Egypt. And there Joseph became head of Potiphar's household until he was wrongly accused of harassment and landed in jail. And it was there in prison that Joseph was immersed in dreams again, those of Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and his baker. Joseph's gift for understanding dreams had never abated, and so the portion brings us back seemingly to where we began, with Joseph telling his brothers, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed." And what did he dream? "Behold, we were binding sheaves, and my sheaf rose and stood upright, and your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheaf." Can you imagine how he sounded to his brothers, who were quick to call him out, demanding, "Do you mean to rule over us?" And the text, then records a surprising admission. They hated him. Hated him. They hated him more because of his dreams. Shortly thereafter, Joseph proudly declares to all, "I've had another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." His father Jacob, who was well versed in sibling rivalry, understood animosity firsthand because of how his own actions provoked his twin Esau, and that shaped the trajectory of his life. Following this dream, it was Jacob who berated Joseph, perhaps out of concern that his son's dream would cause a painful rift with his own brothers, similar to the one he suffered from for so many years. So Jacob scoffed, "What is this dream you have dreamed? Are we to come, I and your mother and your brothers, and bow low to you, bow low to the ground?" Like a story that is read multiple times, the repetition of the dream drives home the message that was obvious to all who heard it. Joseph is the dreamer, yet his listeners cannot help but interpret their meaning. His brothers were offended that Joseph, the Ben Zikunim, the favored child of their father Jacob's old age, had ambitions to see himself as having authority over them, upending the hierarchy of elders where age equals wisdom. As the patriarch Jacob said as much, yet Joseph himself doesn't offer any additional insight here. He simply dreams. The commentator Abarbanel asks the question all subsequent generations want answers to. He asks, why did Jacob even send Joseph to seek out his brothers? Wasn't he afraid they would harm him? Wasn't Joseph himself afraid to go? And Abarbanel later observes, having at last conspired to kill him, why didn't the brothers simply murder him and bury him in the sand? Awful, right? Instead, he wrote, they sent him down to Egypt, and everything they hoped to avoid, meaning all that Joseph had dreamt, came true. Joseph did rise to a position of authority, and though our portion ends before he is elevated to Pharaoh's chief of staff, we know that his family will ultimately bow down before him when they come down to Egypt during the famine. If this were a children's story, it would be time for a pause for cookies and milk. So let's review. The coat, the dreams, the pit, slavery, prison, more dreams. But the Joseph who initially dreams is not the Joseph who ultimately interprets. As we encounter the next couplet of dreams by Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, we see that Joseph is not the same person he was. Once a dreamer, now a dream interpreter. Joseph assures the cupbearer and the baker that God surely can interpret their dreams. And in that short response, he demonstrates that his role is to help his cellmates understood what is within themselves. because the two dreams are variations on a theme: 3 buds on a vine, 3 loaves of bread. Both translate to the passage of 3 days. In the dream where the cupbearer squeezes wine into Pharaoh's cup, Joseph assures him that he will be restored to his position, whereas in the baker's dream, his loaves are eaten by birds, and Pharaoh ultimately puts him to death. The parsha which begins, "Hear this dream which I have dreamed," ends with Joseph saying, "Tell me your dreams, please." We see his growth. We see his spiritual maturity. The dreams cycle back upon themselves, showing Joseph that his purpose is to carry God's interpretation into the world. This is just one of Torah's quiet lessons about spiritual growth. Life moves in cycles, but we are not meant to remain unchanged as we pass through them. We return to similar moments, familiar challenges, recurrent dreams, but with the chance to meet them with new maturity and deeper insight. And this rhythm is also built into Jewish life: the regularity of the same prayers, the exploration of the same Torah texts. The calendar brings us back again and again to holidays we cherish. So when we engage the same sacred moments, because our experiences have changed us, these touch points speak to us differently. This year, as Chanukah approaches, that truth feels especially real. That is a gift of returning to familiar rituals. They invite us to couple our memory with fresh insights, to renew our commitments in ways old and new. Chanukah is always about religious freedom, about the courage to hold on to Jewish identity in the face of pressure to let it go. But this year, that message includes visibility and strength and community, and it shines with renewed intensity and carries added resonance. It strengthens us in new ways and inspires us with new urgency. In the coming week, as we kindle each flame, know that we are not just repeating a familiar and cherished ritual. Because the world around us is changing, so we have been affected and transformed. May each candle be a declaration that even in challenging times, we choose to add light. We choose to bring light and to be the light to push back against the darkness that may overshadow our times. So may the cycle of Jewish time continue to renew us and bring us back, not to where we were, but to who we are becoming and to who we are yet to be. Shabbat Shalom, and may the lights of Chanukah, of religious freedom, sustain us with pride and with confidence as we return to them this year and for many years to come. Kein Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.